Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about my nest, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
We absolutely should all believe in happiness. Good evening. I'm back. I'm excited. I'm caffeinated. Let me tell you, because it has been quite a day. If you follow me on social media, you will see that I took my little boys out because they have been so patient. Even though we're only into week 2 of summer break, they were just sitting around the house, and I'd work and I'd go to the gym and I'd come back and I work again. And, they were just kind of on their own this week. So I took them out and it has just been like running, hustling, running. My oldest daughter actually made dinner for us tonight because I was so behind. So I have made sure that I checked in with the sponsor of the evening, which is Get Neuro Gum and Neuro Mints. I'm sure that you've heard them before. They've become quite mainstream. I don't usually mention other podcasters in my own podcast, but he's way bigger than I am. You've seen this on the Joe Rogan show, Neuro Mints and Neuro Gum, and it's a really great product. If you go to their website, you will get 10% off of your first order with free shipping. And as you'll see, it has tons of B vitamins, the L-theanine, 40 milligrams of caffeine in each little mint, and they're so tasty. I mean, that's what I love, and I keep saying about all my sponsors, is that they're so tasty. They're never bitter, and the flavors are just so true. So they have peppermint and cinnamon. I am enjoying the peppermint this evening. They have expanded over the years, though, because they have been a sponsor with us. If I had to guess, they came on in year 2, and we're now in year 7. So it was pretty early on. They sent me a whole bunch of them and a big swag bag and stuff, and that's always the most fun. But they are now available at GNC, Amazon, Walmart, CVS pharmacies. So that's all over the place. And you can go to their website, getneuro.com. That's GETNEURO.com. If you want to save a little money, get some free shipping and 10% off your first order, you're going to love it. Now, everybody's talking about mushrooms, nootropics. Yes, this does have nootropics in it. It does help with your mental focus and your clarity. Everybody's raving about it, especially, like I said, Joe Rogan loves it. He uses it all the time. And those B vitamins, I have realized I can't live life without B vitamins. Like, I had no idea what I was missing. And I will probably have a new sponsor very, very soon. And we're going to be able to talk about all of the products, some of which I have been indulging in a little bit. But man, they're wonderful. You get a nice little shot of some B vitamins and you go in any direction that you want, because they have all different types of them. So let's say good evening. Good evening, Joe. It's wonderful to see you. Naya. Beautiful Queen Naya. Good evening, Larry. Hey, Larry. I saw you called me. And I got to call you back. I'm so bad at that. I'm so sorry. All right. So we have a really cool guest connected with us. And if you love music like I do, you are going to really enjoy the show tonight. So David Raiklen is connected with us. He's an American composer, producer, educator, and host. David was mentored by Oscar winner John Williams and Pulitzer Prize winner Mel Powel. Dr. Raiklen studied at USC and CalArts and later taught at those universities. He has worked for the major studios including Sony, Disney, Fox, Sprint, Mattel, Warner Brothers, and PBS, plus independent productions. That's a busy guy. Hundreds of scores in media. His projects have starred Elliott Gould, Doug Jones, Blythe Danner, and Martin Sheen. David made the New York Film Critics Top 10 with the documentary Heist. Shortlisted for an Academy Award for Worth and Mia, A Dancer's Journey, won the Emmy. Man, in rehearsal, I don't know what it is with my mouth today, but it doesn't want to say Emmy and it doesn't want to say Academy. All right, but I held on. I'm happy. Raiklen's music includes a cinematic hybrid of 21st century sounds, neoromanticism, post-minimalism, and dance, seasoned with world, jazz, rock, and pop. He works with live acoustic musicians on recordings and concerts, plus custom electronics. David is inspired by the beauty and peace of nature and is an environmental advocate. Raiklen compositions have been performed at Hollywood Bowl and Disney Hall. He also was host of a successful radio program, Classical Fan Club, where guests included Yo-Yo Ma and John Williams, host and leader of the Academy of Scoring Arts Seminars and the National Association of Composers LA Conversations. David is currently producing and composing for Space Command, a series of epic adventures set in a hopeful future, creating live concerts, music videos, and producing live augmented reality experiences. He is musicalizing the history of the universe in Universe. And without any further ado, Mr. David Raiklen, how are you this evening?
I'm terrific. How are you? It's a pleasure to be with you, Elizabeth.
It is a pleasure to have you on the show. I am such a lover of music. I feel like life from conception to death and beyond is musical. It's just everywhere. And so I'm so excited to have a musical person like yourself on the show. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome so much. I'm completely honored and thrilled to be here. And I think we're going to have some fun listening to music and talking about the background, and we can get into how things are done. If you ever wanted to know how something happens behind the scenes, we can dive into that too.
I would absolutely love to dive into that. But before we get to that, can you take us back to when music really caught your ear and you just knew that was your destiny?
I'd love to answer that question. We may have some noise in the background. Are you able to edit?
Well, we can't hear anything, but I think we're okay.
Okay. My parents said that I started conducting Beethoven in my crib when I was 18 months old, and I've just been improving ever since. I was 3 years old when I asked my parents for music lessons. Yes, I asked them for music lessons, and I have been working on various multimedia projects since I was a little kid. I shot and I wrote, shot, directed, scored my first movie when I was 12 years old, and I've been doing it ever since. And I studied both contemporary and classical music. I've been in pop bands when I was in high school. 15, 16 years old, I was already starting to gig. I was also doing things like whenever there was a popular musical, my buddy and I would transcribe it. That is, we'd listen to it, and then we'd write down the music by ear, and then we'd give it to our friends, and they would be doing performances of these big time musicals in our high school. So we got the sense of what it took to put on a show after the show was on Broadway or on an album, but before it actually came out as printed scores, and that turned out to be a big advantage because we learned how to understand what people were doing just by listening in all different kinds of music. And that's still a very helpful skill for any musician in any style of music, is to be able to uh, hear it, and even hear it just in your imagination, and then know exactly what those notes will be when it's time to play them. And so that's what I kind of learned when I was a kid, was how to take whatever I imagine or whatever I hear and turn that into something that I can play, or into notation that our friends can play.
That's
So that's
that really sounds like a skill that you were born with, most of that skill. Let's continue that in just a moment. I have Larry Gilbert. He's asking a quick question. What was your first instrument?
my first instrument was a keyboard, and I started playing keyboards when I was around 3, and then when I was 5, I started playing violin, and then I became the concertmaster. That is the leader of the orchestra from the string section. When I was it 16 or 17, and then I became the concertmaster of the All City Orchestra. But then I started to do less live performing and started focusing more on composing, because I loved so many different kinds of instruments and I wanted to work with them all.
Wow. Wow. Okay, keyboard at 3. Were you good at 3?
Yes. Well, some of that, like you say, is talent, but
Yeah.
being able to turn what you hear into a printed score is a very detailed craft, and nobody is born with that ability. It's like learning how to speak a new language, not the language of music, but the language of music notation, which has this multi-century history where we're always trying to come up with new ways to make traditional instruments create new sounds, and creating a notation for new instruments that have just been invented, like synthesizers or electronics, and giving those performers instructions so they can play nice with all the other instruments. So it's a constantly evolving skill, where the skill that I had when I was 15 was different than what I had when I was 30, and so on, because new instruments kept getting invented and new techniques keep getting invented. And then, at first when I was little, I just did it with paper and pencil. I would just make my own music paper. But then we got into computer notation and sequencing. And so now I don't do anything by hand unless it's an emergency. If like we're in a recording session and the red light is on, and it's costing us $1,000 a minute, and there's a mistake in a part, and that does happen, then the fastest way to fix that is by hand, because I can just write it out.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That takes a few seconds.
That's incredible. I mean, Larry is responding to your answer to his question. He said incredible, and I second that. My goodness. The questions are coming in. So we have another question. Your thought on Gary Wright's Dreamweaver, says Joe Mathis.
I'm going to need you to speak up a little bit.
Sure, of course. Your thoughts on Gary Wright's Dreamweaver.
Oh, Gary Wright Dreamweaver. Well, that was a big hit back in the day, and it has that kind of ethereal dream world kind of synthesizer effects that at that time were really mind-boggling. And when people first heard that, it was like, wow, what is that sound? And the interesting thing is that the synthesizers that were used back in the day for creating that pop song have come back into style, and so now it's a big premium, a highly sought after item to be able to buy those vintage synthesizers from back then. They cost more now than they did then.
Wow. Wow.
So, they're musical instruments that come from a particular era, and it's really important, to value the instruments that come from a particular time, like a Stradivarius violin. People have been making violins for a very, very long time, but those Stradivarius violins cost millions of dollars each, because they learned how to, or stumbled upon, or some combination, the perfect violin. And no one's been able to do a better job than they did hundreds of years ago. And the same thing is true with synthesizers. Like there's a synthesizer called the Mini Moog that first came out around 1970, which is quite a long time ago, like kind of before my time. But people still use them today because it has this sound that always sounds cool. It doesn't sound like it came from 1970. It just sounds cool because like a guitar is always timeless, right? You can have music from centuries ago, or you can have the music that we're going to write tomorrow and play it on a guitar because it's just a cool thing. And synthesizers can be like that too.
Wow. I was thinking about the whole electronics sounds and that boom that happened. I mean, it was really in the 70s moving forward. 80s was pretty heavy with that. Is there anything that you struggled with really trying to figure out, okay, how do I write this for this instrument?
That's actually a wonderful question. And the short answer is play.
Okay.
And I mean both play like music play and also play as in having fun. You just dive into the instrument, and you've probably seen synthesizers before, and you see that they have lots of sliders and dials and different controls. And it's interesting that nowadays we have virtual synths, where they're plugins that run on your computer, and they replicate the exact same controls. So it looks like you have a beautiful photograph of a, say, a Prophet 5 synthesizer on your screen, because that's the easiest way to manipulate it, is to replicate those controls. And you just play around with them. And after a while, you start to get good at creating a certain kind of sound. And then you have the memory function, so you can store the sound that you just made. When you have all the parameters just right and you've got that really cool sound, you can save it and bring it back whenever you need it. And then you started to get people who were programmers that would create sounds that you could just plug into your computer or into your synthesizer using a little memory card. You connect the synthesizer to your computer. The thing is that I like to do my own custom programming. So even though I may be using the same synthesizer that 10,000 other people have, I've learned how to program it so I can make a unique sound for this project. And that's especially important when you're working in film, television, video games, because you want each project to have its own sonic signature, its own identity. And the way that you get that is you have to make a custom sound that hasn't been heard before that fits that show perfectly. And that's where the programming skill comes in.
Oh my goodness. And you're doing that for each and every project, right?
Yes. Well, this is part of the fun. Like I said, it's kind of playful. I mean, if there's a deadline and they're not liking what you're doing and you have to keep doing different versions, then, that can get a little bit stressful. But it's mostly just fun to play around. And, it's like when I'm playing the violin, you develop a bond with the instrument where it's no longer something that you have to think about, but you can make whatever sound comes in your mind. So I like to work either by looking at the picture and improvising. So I'm turning what I see into something that you hear in real time.
Oh.
And it's funny because, part of the way that I learned that skill was back in the old ancient times, there was pre-sound where there was picture, but there was no recorded sound in that era. But there was always sound, there was always music, it just had to be done live. And I became fascinated by that when I was like 20, 25, something like that. And I started studying how those people did it. And they had to have a lot of natural talent in improvising, but they also had certain techniques that they would use, so they could quickly come up with something that sounded like chase music, or sounded like romantic music, or sounded like kind of nonchalant traveling music, and battle or different dance styles. You had to be able to do all those different styles. So now we're doing the same thing. We just have better technology.
Are you enjoying that part of it?
That's the part of the magic of telling a story using every art form. So while the actor is acting and the cinematographer is photographing, I'm composing that story, and in a complementary way. So what I'm doing in the music department is enhancing, supporting what the actor is doing and not conflicting with them. And that's kind of both the fun of it, because there's a tremendous feeling of satisfaction when all of those pieces come together. And the composer is usually the first person to get to experience that, when all of the elements are coming together and suddenly you have a movie, or you have a great TV episode, or the game comes to life and you feel completely immersed in it. That's just an incredibly thrilling moment to have that happen. And then you get to show it to other people.
And that's the magic of being able to enjoy a film, to enjoy a television show. I think if we really took a vote of most of humanity, they would want music playing all day long. There's different situations and different emotions, and there's so much music that you can put with it. You're working on a project, Space Command, and so what I read earlier was creating live concerts, music videos, and producing live augmented reality experiences. Now, that's different from using AI and the whole AI boom, or whatever you might want to call it, that is mainstream right now and everybody's looking at it. Augmented reality is the submersion into what you're watching, right?
Yes. Well, it's taking the best of two worlds, what's happening in the real world and what's happening in the virtual world, and combining them simultaneously. So the user is experiencing multiple levels of reality at the same time. And it's just super cool. So for example, you can be walking through a park or through a shopping mall and playing a video game that's set in that shopping mall, that only you and your friends who have your AR goggles on can see. And it just adds a whole other level. But let me give you a specific example of a fun augmented reality experience.
Okay.
A little while back, my friend, the late, great Kate Johnson, one of the most visionary artists and directors that I've ever worked with, was given the task of creating an anniversary celebration event for the Center Theater Group, which is the joining together of the major theater groups in Los Angeles to create special live theater events. And we were going to honor their 50th anniversary, and many wonderful programs, many wonderful shows that had been debuted in Los Angeles. A lot happens in Broadway in New York, but there are also shows that were created out here, like Zoot Suit, for example. And there was a lot of other ones. And so what we were allowed to do is the city of Los Angeles gave us a grand park between the Amerson Theater and LA City Hall, the iconic LA City Hall, to transform into an augmented reality experience. So Kate had this idea of getting those barcode projectors that you use like to project on giant screens in stadiums, you know, for stadium concerts or for big sporting events, and get a whole stack of them and link them by computer and project on the city hall. So the images were 500 feet tall, and that's much, much bigger than a movie screen.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't stop there. We also had something called Octopus. And the Octopus is a mobile platform that has a video projector and speakers and lights that are, laser lights that are all programmed, all in this one unit. And we filled the park with this. So in addition to the giant video that was projected on City Hall, there was also smaller videos that were still quite large that were on the foliage and other objects that were in the park. So the trees would come alive and have video on them that would be kind of shimmering and twinkling as the breeze made the leaves that were projected on start to vibrate in the wind. And then there was the VIP section where the public was in the park and on the streets around it. And then there was a VIP section where people were having dinner. But as they finished dinner, they saw that the table, as it was cleared, were actually giant video screens. So the people sitting at the table were getting video that was literally like right in front of them. So there was these three different levels of what was on the table, and then what was on the trees and shrubbery, and then what was on the skyscrapers. And I provided music for that. So recorded with an orchestra and chorus and created original music for all these videos, and then spatialized it. That is, we made the sounds appear in different spots all through the park, and then synchronized the sound so it all sounded normal if you were walking through. So this was a very large augmented reality experience. And as you might imagine, you had to have been there to really experience it. But there's some wonderful photos of it that I think are on my website and a couple other places where you can kind of get a sense of the epic scale and how much technology went into this, even though you couldn't see really any of the magic of how this was happening. It just suddenly appeared.
You know what? As you were speaking, I was able to find a website dedicated to Kate. And,
Yes.
Unfortunately, she passed in 2020. But as you were telling us about it, we saw some of the images of this presentation that you were talking about. Incredible. How incredible. Oh, my goodness. We do have another question that just came in. Joe Mathis would like to know, mixing digital or analog? So I guess maybe he's asking, do you have a preference of which you enjoy more? Would it be mixing digital or mixing analog?
I'm going to turn on a little more light here.
Okay.
I think that's better, right?
Very nice. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I am a believer in the best of all worlds, and I don't choose one over the other, with one exception. Live performance is always your best option, and whenever it's possible, or I'll try and make it possible to work with live musicians. But analog and digital, we use both all the time. In other words, I use analog synthesizers and I use digital synthesizers. And when it comes down to mixing, most of that is done by my brilliant engineer friend, Mike Arvold. And, he's got all wonderful awards and has worked in huge motion pictures like Star Trek and Up. So they use a combination of digital and analog, depending on what works best for each particular instrument. So, for example, under some situations, we might want to take what's called a direct line. Like, say, from an electric guitar, you can have the electric guitar plugged directly into the mixing board. And that's good for some things. And then on other occasions, you might want to plug the electric guitar into an amp and then put several microphones around the amp and record the live sound of the amp reverberating in the room. So you're getting an analog recording of that sound. And sometimes we'll mix both. So we'll have both a direct line and we'll have the microphones on the same instrument so we can balance them to get that ideal perfect sound.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much. That's a wonderful answer. Very detailed. He followed up.
Sorry if I went too inside baseball.
No. I love what you had to say there. I don't understand much of it, but I know Joe does, and it's Joe's question. He also commented, I have a Midas Verona 400.
Oh my gosh, that's a British board that's very high quality.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Joe, for that question. So
yes, and also most people don't know that Midas also does synthesizer design.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There's so many instruments. Are you ever surprised to get your hands on new ones? At this point in your career, are there instruments out there that you really would just love to play?
I can play anything badly.
I'm sure that's not true. I'm absolutely sure that's not true. You can play anything very well.
Well, thank you. But yes, I love collecting instruments and trying out new instruments. I prefer to work with professionals who are masters of that instrument. It's just faster and easier to communicate with someone who already has the full skill level on that instrument. So I can have a conversation with them about, let's try it this way, let's try it that way, and make something that's unique rather than my experimenting and trying to find something that works. Well, now we get back to what happens when you get a brand new synthesizer and you never worked with it before. Well, there's this learning curve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I work a lot in the entertainment industry, and there's just not much time. In other words, if there's a 2-hour-long movie, and let's say that it's an action movie, so there'll probably be an hour and 45 minutes, maybe an hour and 50 minutes of music in that 2-hour movie. So that means you have to write over 2 hours of music, because it would be wonderful if they liked everything that you wrote the first time, but that hardly ever happens. So, you end up having to write more like 4 hours of music for a 2-hour movie. And you only have a few months to do that. So, for example, a songwriter who works quickly will write, and this is quick, will write a song a week. So that's 3 or 4 minutes in a week. Mm-hmm. Well, on a movie, I have to write 3 or 4 minutes a day and record it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's mind-boggling.
Yes. For example, it's common for a big orchestral score to run 800 or 1,000 pages long.
Oh my gosh.
And it has to be written in 2 or 3 months.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that just sounds like everybody's working day and night, just every single day.
Well, it would be like that if we didn't have teams. So you develop relationships with people who can help you. Like, for example, I can create a sketch and do what's called a mock-up, where I use what are called samples. You can get a sample of electric bass, and you can get samples of all different models of electric basses from different eras. So you find the electric bass that fits best, and then you can get samples of a solo violin or a section of violins or a whole string orchestra, and you balance all those together until you get something that's a fake, a simulation of what an orchestra would sound like. And so I present that to the producers, and then they either like it or they don't. And if they like it, then I hand that off to an orchestrator to turn that into an orchestral part, a set of orchestral parts, because it takes so much time to make the parts that I wouldn't have time to finish writing the music.
I can
Does
see
that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's sort of like every movie nowadays, actually for the last 20 years, is scored twice. Once in the mock-up that the composer is creating for the director and the producer, and then the final recording session where the music that's actually in the movie gets recorded. So that's why it takes a team, because you're making two different versions at the same time. One to get it approved, and then one to do the final version. And it's common for elements of the electronic mock-up to get blended into the live, and you combine the best of both.
Wow, gosh. There's just so many things that you're bringing up that I had no clue. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching had no clue all of that was happening in the background to make these wonderful pieces. And speaking of wonderful pieces, I have Larry Gilbert here. He's asking a question. What's been the project you have been most proud of? And then he followed that up with the one that really stayed with you.
Those are good questions. I'm a person whose top 10 list has at least 25 entries on it. And I've always been that way. I love so many things that when someone asks, what's my favorite project? It's the one I'm working on.
Okay. That keeps you very focused, right?
Yes. And it was only much later that I saw a quote from a genius classical composer named Igor Stravinsky that many people think is one of the top 5 most creative, brilliant musicians of all time. And a young composer was asked to write for an unusual ensemble of instruments. And he asked for Stravinsky's advice on what to do. How could he write for this? He said that the secret was that you have to convince yourself that this is the ensemble that you've always wanted to write for, and that this is the favorite most thing that you've ever done in your career. And that's exactly the way things work in Hollywood, that you have to really believe that this is your favorite project and that what you're doing is the thing that you most want to do. Because if you fake it, people can tell. And yeah, maybe it'll be good enough, it'll serve and be, utilitarian, functional music in the background. But what's the point of doing that? I mean, if you're going to make art and be creative for a living, why settle for that's good enough? I mean, why not make it fun and great?
Wow.
And the secret to doing that is to believe in the project. So right now I'm working on something called Space Command, which is a series of epic adventures set in a hopeful future. And we're putting together our presentation for Comic-Con in July. It'll be on Saturday, July 22nd at 11 a.m. at Comic-Con in San Diego. And then that afternoon at about 3 p.m., we're going to have a matinee where we show the whole episode. So people will get to meet the cast and some of the principal creative people, and then they'll be able to go watch the movie. And so that's sort of my favorite project now, because I'm writing orchestral music and science fiction sounds, and creating a whole world where we're traveling to different planets and different civilizations, and each one needs to have their own unique music to make them come alive and help the audience understand that, okay, now we're on Earth, and now we're on Mars, and now we're on this other planet and another star system, and I get to create alien languages. So the choir is singing in a language that's made up for the aliens, but it's a real language. And there's all kinds of levels of creativity there. And we got some of the cast members who are on screen and who also had musical talent to come in and sing on the soundtrack. So like when Doug Jones or Mira Furlan is on screen, sometimes you will hear their voice singing in the soundtrack their theme song.
Oh, that's so cool. So now I have a piece, an MP4, Ship to Sun. I'm assuming with the name of this project that those two are connected.
Yes. Ship to Sun is a couple of action sequences in Space Command that are mixed so they make a nice listening experience.
Would you mind if I play a little bit of it? All
Please
right.
do.
Okay, this is Ship to Sun. Make sure our volume is correct. Wow. I really don't want to stop it. There's so much happening there. Oh,
Yes, well, we're telling a story. There's tons of things happening. There's an interstellar battle happening, and we're seeing the humans and the androids and the aliens, and the whole universe is flashing by on the screen, and I'm supporting all of that in the music.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that. I don't have any visual of the project, right? But you just see it. It's that full submersion. I love your work. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Larry Gilbert said, "I'm gonna make that my ringtone."
It'll definitely get your attention.
It will. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, so everyone can see that in San Diego Comic-Con, July 2023. Is that correct?
Yes, July 22nd, that's a Saturday.
Okay.
And anybody who's going to Comic-Con is welcome to come to our panel. It's free. And then they can, after we talk about it, you can see it that afternoon, also at San Diego Comic-Con.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. All right. Before I let you
And
go,
if you can't see it there, then you'll be able to see it on Amazon, on Amazon Prime. It'll be, I think, in fact, it's going to be available now. So you can look for Space Command on Amazon Prime, and you can see it, and it's a good movie.
I'm going to take a look at that right now. Space Command. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is available now. Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine what that project is like just by listening to the 55 seconds that we just listened to. You do have so much more of your work on your SoundCloud. Is that correct?
Yes, whole variety of work there. not only film scores, but also concert music and pop music, all different styles. I tried to make playlists up so people who were interested in kind of staying in one lane could do that, or you can just jump around and have fun like I do.
Oh, that's awesome. So I want to bring up here to the screen your SoundCloud page so that everyone can take a look at this. Oh, look at that. Okay, I can't be selfish. I have to show everybody what I'm looking at before I start drooling all over it. So you have Native American drum loop with transitions, reciprocity. That's one that we were speaking about in the green room. So reciprocity saxophone.
Yes, that was commissioned by the great Doug Masick, maybe the greatest saxophone player I've ever heard. And he just completely knocks it out of the park. Just an exhilarating performance. When we played it for live audiences, standing ovation.
Wow. May we take a listen to that?
Yes, please. It starts out kind of quiet and then goes through many different moods, and then it ends with more high energy stuff. So the MP4 that I sent you kind of focuses on the high energy stuff, or if you listen to the SoundCloud, just start at the beginning where it has the more ethereal and spacey opening.
Okay. Okay. So this is on SoundCloud. So we will start from the beginning. Let's give it a listen for 30 seconds or so, and then we'll come back. Wow. Oh, so smooth. Such a smooth saxophone player.
Yes, he is just a dream to work with. And when we get to the virtuosic sections, he really just the fireworks go off. He can, take it to 11.
Wow, that is amazing. All right. So as you had mentioned, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Do you have something on your mind?
I wanted to be sure that we mentioned a wonderful project that's kind of my favorite right now. It's something called Wild Horses, the Native American Experience, where we're doing a documentary about these wonderful herds of wild horses that run in the American West, and they have such grace and speed and power that when they move, it almost looks like it's something from a fantasy movie, and it's just so inspiring to write music for that. Yet they also have these cute, charming personalities. They're actually intelligent, and you can see how they interact with each other. They interact with the Native Americans, and they're living beings that have a personality, and I get to play that. And we're using a lot of authentic, organic sounds like wooden flutes, Native American flutes, and calf head drums, that are made from animal skins and wood, and there's no metal parts at all. And we're also combining a little bit of Western instruments like a cello to help give it a little more solid bass.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that I love the sound world that we're creating, the sound world of the wild horses.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I do have someone here asking for the link to your SoundCloud. Are they able to just search your name to find you on SoundCloud?
I think they could, but I think the fastest way to get there is actually the same as my email. You go to Cinematic Music One, CINEMATICMUSIC, the numeral one. Just put that into SoundCloud and you'll get it. Or you can search by my name.
Okay.
And also, you can get videos, including a video of one of the live performances of Reciprocity on YouTube. So you can see that, yes, all of this is happening live in real time. We can actually do this.
If you had a wish for the future, what might it look like?
Well, my great wish is that people would live in peace and understanding. But if you're talking about me personally, I would love to score the biggest movie of the year, have it be a science fiction movie, and with a director who loves and understands music, so we can get the best possible sound and help with the best possible music to tell this story of a visionary future.
Wow. Well, I love it, David. You are such a genius. You have this genius mind in such a creative world. You really are very, very rare. And I feel very lucky to have an hour with you chatting about what you do and how you do it. And you've been so authentic and open with us to tell us how that process goes. It's just amazing.
Well, thank you. Elizabeth, you're a dream to work with. You're always asking good questions, and your timing is impeccable, and you interact with the audience. It's just, I'd love to do this again someday.
I would absolutely love to have you on again. Yes. And I hope that people are able to make it out to Comic-Con in San Diego next month to see you and see the project. And congratulations on all of your success and your success to come. And David, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, wonderful audience. We do this for you guys.
That's absolutely right. And we have had a stellar audience tonight. They are on it. They had so many great questions. So thank you. Yes, great point. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you very soon. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching again. Thank you for the comments. You are fantastic tonight. As always, we are blessed. You are blessed. Mwah. I love you. And I will see you for another great show. Don't miss it. See you soon.